Okay, perfect. All right. So, yeah, my name is Toby. I'm a certified artificial intelligence governance professional. Long fancy title. But we're going to talk about practical and responsible AI. So, thanks to everyone who did complete the survey, the readiness survey that helped me kind of guide this. From what I could understand from that, a lot of folks kind of already they've heard about AI, obviously, excited about it, but not really sure what it is and how to use it really well. So that's what we're going to talk about. But yeah, let's jump in here. So I do have a LinkedIn. If you want to add me on LinkedIn at some point, just can search up Toby and I should come up there. But yeah, so again, thanks for attending this workshop. We're going to be focusing on saving time, how serving our communities better, and just staying human with AI. There's no hype, there's no coding. It should be a fairly straightforward process. And as Melissa's pointing out, questions will be at the end. So, technological adoption and innovation. When each time there's a new technology, we think about cell phones, the internet, social media. Community services get it last. That's the easiest way to put it. It lasts in the race, and it's the mindset of the industry. It's the way the government allocates budgets. We get the scraps, the remnants, right? So usually that is the trend. However, with AI, it's been a very interesting where a lot of innovation is happening all at the same time. But again, we're already noticing that gap in adoption for community services, and so I've made it my personal mission to make sure that that gap doesn't exist as much anymore, that folks can actually take advantage of it. Because the secret is that community services in the whole sector is primed to be one of the most transformed by AI and least affected by AI because what we do is fundamentally human. Our services, we serve people directly through our daily jobs, through interacting in our communities. So we are actually positioned to enjoy the benefits more than any other industry while still maintaining our jobs and maintaining our roles and what we do. It's just going to be transformed and reshaped in a whole positive way. So, with that said, I'm also the founder of CivicLay.ai. We're a consultancy group focused on AI education, adoption, literacy, focus again in that community services sector. So the three pillars. I built this entire thing on three pillars. Alignment. AI should support your mission, not distract from it. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of cool things going on, and people will say, "Oh, AI can solve all my problems. Therefore, I don't have to think about it." Well, too bad you are still in charge, and that's a great thing for your communities because think about it, at the end of the day, it's you and your people. That's really it. You as a leader, as a programmer, as someone in the office, it's you and your community, you and your staff, you and your team. So you have to still make sure that the AI, whatever you use, whatever tools you use, is aligned to your mission. Then we go to being actionable. A lot of the AI world is hype. I'll be the first to admit that. There's a lot of cool things happening, but then there's also a lot of hype. So when I talk about tools in my presentations and demos presentations, it means you can use them today, right now. You can use them immediately after the session. You can even use them during the session. But I want to make sure that you are empowered to start using tools that you can use today, not like waiting for some system upgrade. And finally, approachable. This is again, no, it's no jargon, no degrees. This is just making sure that the tech is relevant to our industry, to our day-to-day jobs, and even to our daily lives. So be it. All right. So with that said, let's talk about some basics because one of the number one thing I noticed from the readiness service is a lot of people just don't understand AI basics. Hey, you started using ChatGPT. It was a cool app you downloaded from the App Store, and you're like, well, you don't really know about it. So let's talk about that. What even is AI? So AI, short for artificial intelligence, is an umbrella term, right? It covers so many technologies that all have the goal of simulating human intelligence. So these are things like you think about any tool that's trying to simulate, approximate what we do as humans. you can consider it AI. And this term's not a new one. It's been around since the 1950s. It's definitely a fairly old term. And even before that, the idea existed, but it didn't get the term artificial intelligence until sometime in the 1950s. Then we talk about what is machine learning, deep learning. So again, AI is an umbrella term. In that umbrella, there's so many different technologies. Machine learning is one of the foundational technologies that's been around for many decades now, but essentially, it's algorithms that learn patterns from data, right? So they learn the patterns. That's what machine learning is. The learning comes from understand. This machines can actually understand patterns and therefore make predictions based on what they know. Deep learning is simply a deeper layer, a more nuanced layer of that. With machine learning, it's almost like an algorithm. You can figure out the equation. Anyone's loves algebra. X plus Y equals Z. You can figure things out by just moving things around. So it's fairly straightforward to understand. However, with deep learning, that middle section is much broader, and therefore it's almost like a black box. It means that just like a magician, you don't really know what's in that box. You just things pop out. Scientists and researchers they've come up with deep learning as based roughly on their estimation or their understanding of neural networks. So neural networks are really how our brain works, how we process information, how we process data. And so based on all of that, said, okay, well, we have algorithms for simple machine learning. Deep learning should just kind of serve like an artificial brain. That brings us next to LLMs, which stands for large language models. So, large language models, like the name suggests, it's massive data sets of language, usually scrapped from the internet or just data, really. A lot of LLMs originated for translation. So you think about Google Translate, for English to French or whatever other language you can think of. LLMs were initially built with that in mind, but along those lines, there was an innovation called a transformer. So a transformer is an attention-driven network architecture. What that means is just like how we humans process information based on context, so too have we now taught machines to do that as well. So you think about when you are, at work, at school, whatever, the way you see the world, the way you act is going to be very different from when you are at home. Or the way you interact with your colleagues is different from how you interact with your friends. The same words can mean vastly different things in different contexts. And so Transformers, which really got popular and started sometime in 2017, has revolutionized the industry because when you're trying to translate text, a lot of times it's context. You have to figure out what the subject is and what's the situation is and so on and so forth. This brings us to NLPs. NLP stands for natural language processing. So honestly, this is one of the more uh, this is the magic really for how AI has become so prolific, right? So the fact that you now have a machine that can understand how we see, how we talk, and therefore makes it easier to actually converse completely changes the field because before you had to code, you had to understand machine language, ones and zeros, or programming language to even interact with machines. But now, thanks to NLP, you can just communicate with this AI using regular everyday language, which is just again incredible stuff. So, and then that brings us to prompt engineering. So, prompt engineering is a very fancy term and very fairly new thing. It's a process of instructing AI to generate the output that you want. That's really it. And it's called engineering because just like every other engineering thing you might have to deal with, it is focused on trying to amend and iterate and do gradual changes to get to the thing you want, which is vastly different from how we've been using technology. So for the longest time, a lot of technology has been, if you think about Google, right? You search a key phrase, it gets you a page of results. You search another phrase, it gets you another page of results. But that back and forth, each time you go to a new page is different. However, with like stuff with apps and websites like ChatGPT, products like ChatGPT, Gemini, Meta AI, with those kind of products, you can keep up the context of the conversation longer, which allows you to better refine and iterate towards what you want. Then we're talking something slightly new. So meta prompting is honestly, again, we talked. Remember we discussed about the natural language processing. So meta prompting is asking the AI, how can I improve this prompt to get what I want? That's honestly it. And it's such a, it's a very, when you think about it deeply, it's a very like interesting idea because all of a sudden you don't have to be the only one in the driver's seat. You now have a co-pilot to say, okay, you know what? If we want to land on a mountain, we should probably do these type of calculations. If we want to, sort out get to this report, we probably need these fields. That process, that back and forth, is now elevated. So now you can have actual strategic discussions with the AI to get to the results that you want. And finally, we get to generative AI. So remember, I said AI is a very umbrella term. So if you just say AI, it is so broad, it can cover so many things. Well, when we talk about generative AI, this is where ChatGPT comes. And actually, the G in ChatGPT stands for generative. So ChatGPT is an example of generative AI. And that gives you an example of the fact that you create new content based on your prompts. Right, so a ChatGPT has been trained on a lot of data sets, a lot of words to be able to do, so that you can then draft emails, draft reports, draft program plans, so on and so forth. And additionally, we talk about the idea of multimodal. So modal just means how, what inputs, what type of input it is. So is it visual? Is it text? Is it sound? All of this comes together to kind of get us kind of where we are right now. So these are kind of the grounding basics. Using these understanding terms, we're going to go to the next slide here, which is all about you guys. So in the chat window, I'm gonna just ask, take the 60 seconds, jot down one or more tasks that you do regularly that drains your time or energy. Is that something repetitive, routine, writing based? Write it down in the chat. We'll come back to it later in the demos, but I'll give you guys a minute to do that while I have a quick water break. Yeah, I see some answers coming in. This is perfect. That gives me time to move around to other topics here. So, okay, we're going to go into our first demo here. So if you're still writing the answer, that's perfectly fine, but we're going to go into the first demo so that way you understand what's going on. So our first demo is going to be something simple. We're going to draft a thank you email as like a program recap. This is something you might have done multiple times as, as frontline workers or as pardon me, as program planners for anything you've done, either with clients or communities or members, or whatever it is. So it's drafting a thank you email because, hey, that's important to keep up with our network, right? So let's see here. So I have here as a prompt, right? So this is ChatGPT. Now I am using a paid version of ChatGPT, so it will appear different from if you're using the free stuff. I always recommend that if you have the budget, you go for the paid version. And the reason why is for the free versions, a lot of times they do train on the data, but for the paid version, you can opt out of it. Now I've heard that there've been recent updates where you can actually actively opt out of using even on the free version you can opt out of train using your data for training. However, the paid version still has way more benefits outside of privacy. So it's faster, it's better, all that fun stuff. All right. And we can have that discussion later as well in the Q&A. So here's a prompt. Draft a 120 to 160 word thank you note to parents after attending a family community services meet and greet info event. Tone, warm, specific, appreciative, include next steps. So stay tuned for the next session. Welcome to reach out directly to us for continued support. Follow social media for more events, and then end with a clear call to action. This is, it's like a paragraph, a few words here. So here's what we've got. Okay. So you can see it's coming up with something. Again, I'll remind you, with AI, you are always in charge. If there's one thing that one of well the two things, but so with AI, you are always in charge. You're always accountable. You're the leader here. And the number two thing is with generative AI. So we just talked about it. The reason that is generative also the advantages of being generative also has a lot of downsides. So the downsides of using generative AI is that when you're each time you search a query or type in a prompt, it's creating something new. So even if you type this exact same prompt, it'll be completely different. Well, not completely different. It'll sound different from what you expect. So because of that, the technology is what the tech heads call probabilistic, right? So a lot of technology before this has been yes, then no, ones and zero, very logical. So it's very deterministic. You can explain the process. However, with generative AI, it is a probabilistic stuff. So each time you search this, even if you search the same query on other computers, it will come out different to say each time. So that does cause a couple of issues here and there, but we'll cover that in a different part of the presentation. So we have drafted this note here thanks to AI. It said, okay, hey, thank you for joining us at our Family Community Services meet and greet. We were so pleased to see such a wonderful turnout and to connect with you in person. But the patient and thoughtful questions help make that event engaging and meaningful for everyone involved. This guidance was just the beginning. Stay tuned for our next session where we'll continue building connections, sharing resources, support your family. In the meantime, please know that our team is here for you. Don't hesitate to reach out. Blah, 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 blah. Call to action. Follow our pages today. Be the first to hear about the next session. One more gone, your organization's name. Boom, right? Look at this. Again, this is something that you could have drafted in a few minutes, but with AI, this is like a 30-second process. So I'm also gonna, again, parts of using AI is being able to mold the messages accordingly. So we've talked with parents. Maybe we also want to reach out to teenagers, right? So we can say, okay, hey, we had teenage volunteers at this event. So we say, you know what? Let's say draft another email for the teenage volunteers who helped out at this event. All right, here we go again. I want to send a huge thank you for the time and energy, enthusiasm brought to our family community services. Parents and families noticed your efforts, and so did we. You truly made a difference. Blah, blah, stay ready for our next event. So you can see that in a matter of seconds, we've come up with two different emails. Come up with an email tagging those who showed up, and mostly parents, and also targeted the volunteers, because I think a lot of us work with volunteers to get to get events or programs or activities planned out sometimes, right? Or even just maybe even board of directors as well, right? So again, this is something that you can mainly see the difference. So we have this all sorted. So that's kind of step one. We've drafted this simple message. Now we're gonna go ahead and generate a post out of this. We're gonna actually start planning the next event. I don't know about the next event, but we're gonna plan it together using ChatGPT and Canva. So if there are any Canva heads in the audience, you're in for a treat here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna copy and paste this, man. All right, so let's see here. We're gonna start planning the next event. Um, let's plan the next event. I want to invite parents and volunteers again for this. Come up with let's see, actually there's what details do you need for this? All right, let's see this. Let's plan the next event. I want to invite parents. What details do you need for this? Okay, event basics. Oh, perfect. All right, so we're going to, just for the sake of time, usually I'll say, hey, go through all these, answer the questions. Because remember, I said AI is really good as a co-partner, as a co-pilot when you plan things out. But it's done a lot of good stuff, right? It's generated the questions that once you answer it, it could help you better kind of mold that campaign. So we'll say, you know what, just for the sake of time, like let's say, um, why don't you just randomize it? Randomize it. Let's see here. Perfect. Okay. Oh, there we go. Look at that. It's got us giving us some details here. Okay. Family creative night, community walk and talk. I do like community walk and talk. I do like that already. I like that. And volunteer and family appreciation special. Ooh. But let's say, you know what? Option two. Let's go up with option two. Perfect. Okay. Boom. All right. You got some details, location, whatever it is. It's come up with a draft agenda, volunteer roles, communication plan. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna create a poster out of this. Okay, we're gonna say, okay, hey, could you come up with a prompt for Canva um, to promote this event? Perfect. All right, we've got this. Okay, so we will go to Canva. Here we are in Canva. So what is this? This is Canva AI. Canva AI is something new that came out just about this year. Actually, they've had it before, but Canva really stepped up and actually made this something worth using this year. And so this is you know what? I'm just gonna show you. I'm just gonna show you. So I'm gonna say design for me. I want a social media thing. I'm gonna paste the prompt that ChatGPT did. Remember we talked about meta prompting? This is meta prompting in real life. So create a bright, welcoming event poster for community walk and talk theme, family, blah, blah, blah. Use friendly colors, clear typography, headline, join families, blah, 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 details, okay. Da, 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 da. Cool. Add a call to action. All right. Let's throw that in there. I should have probably selected one location for meet and greet, but we'll figure something out. We'll see what's on. So what Canva has done, and why I like using Canva to edit any visual assets, is the fact that you can get started with a rough brainstorm for what you might potentially want, as for a poster, for a graphic, whatever it is. You're not, again, bound to these. You can always ask for more, but this is a very good start. So let's look at this. Okay. All right. So we've got some good colors here. Oh, I do like this picture. That's also nice. But let's go with something like let's see. I'm deciding between one and two. Let's see. You know what? Let's go with two. I like for some reason I like it. So in here, what I like about Canva as well is the fact that I can edit specific things. You know, I can say, okay, I'm gonna edit the text and say, you know, community walk and talk uh now, right? I had this in there, so I can all of a sudden edit the text. If I wanted to move things around, you know, and change some colors, let's see. Let's see what some colors are. Boom, 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 right? You got different colors you can work with. And then that's not even enough. Let's go into the actual editor. A typical Canva editor. So in here, this is where you can actually start using your own, like if you had a brand or something, there we go, just throw in some brand colors here. You can mess around with the brand colors to kind of figure out what you want if you got some brand colors. So there's a lot you can immediately do with this poster just within a few seconds of operating on AI. Okay, so let's go back to our thing here. So we've got the poster. We'll go back here and say, okay, ChatGPT is now asking us, hey, do you want me to draft a couple of captions? You know what? I like that, but I have a proper prompt for that. Let's say, boom, copy and paste this. All right. So I'm saying, hey, you're a community services communicator. Write a one paragraph blog for each program, three specific channels tailored to participants, parents, volunteers. I actually say to parents, to volunteers, and parents. Include one on test page poster for poster image. Okay, cool. So there we go. Speaking of just for quick prompting knowledge here. So I said you're a community service communicator. So sometimes it might help. Actually, the more information you typically give ChatGPT or whatever prompting you're using, be it Gemini, Meta AI, whatever you're using, the more information you typically give, the better. However, there's a good structure, a good formula around those. You will find everyone will find their pace eventually, but just understand that typically, hey, the more information you give, the better the outcome. But again, you can push back. You're in charge. You make the decisions, and ChatGPT, generative AI, is not a truth machine. So if you're using it for research, using it for the reports, whatever, always make sure to double check what the output is, because the excuse of ChatGPT did it, and I don't know how, I don't know why, but ChatGPT said this is a thing, does not fly for your community members, for the courts, it doesn't work. All right, so let's see here. Okay, perfect. So we have a one paragraph blob for we can use for posters, emails, newsletters, which again sounds great. Channel specific captions, Instagram reel, whatever. We also got some alt text. So with this, even with you can see this. So it's still telling us, okay, for Facebook, this is good for parents and families, or Instagram, parents and volunteers, visual focus, or LinkedIn, probably looking at volunteers and community partners. Therefore, the text is going to be a little bit different. So, boom, all of a sudden you're seeing that these different aspects of marketing that you would have taken a couple hours to do, you now have a good head start. You have a gem to carve to create what you want. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go back to our stuff. So we've used ChatGPT Canva and ChatGPT to create a poster, to draft a couple of copies for demographics and so on. All right, now let's make it a bit more fun. We're gonna convert this into French. Okay, let's see here. So, I'll say, boom. Translate program blobs to French, simplify to grade five reading level. That last part, honestly, is just because, hey, sometimes most people just like to read things in a very simple manner, because a lot of times, hey, you're driving, you're going places, you don't have the time to speed through things, right? So, anyways, translation. I don't know if anyone who speaks French. I'm not that into French, but it looks correct. I also typically trust LLMs and ChatGPT and Google and all that stuff with translations, because again, that was the initial idea that the technology was built for. It's built to help translate the world's languages from one language to the other. That means it's terrible math. Absolutely terrible math. But that's a whole side tangent. But again, we've been able to translate the French, so you can imagine that, hey, if you have, other Canadians or new immigrants from different countries, you could potentially translate it into the popular languages within your area to again better reach out to demographics you might not usually be reaching out to, right? So this is again some of those simple stuff that we are keeping track of. And now let's get to a bit of fun. We're going to create some reports using ChatGPT here. All right, so perfect. Okay. So I'm using the some of the readiness surveys that we did. So I scrubbed it of any personal information, so names, emails, locations, and moved all of that. This is just focused on kind of the answers. So a lot of times you might have a spreadsheet or a CSV file or something like that, and you're like, okay, what do I do with this data? What can I do with this data? If you've got a routine on what to do, perfect. But maybe sometimes you just need an idea, something to help you get started on the process. Here is ChatGPT to the rescue. So I said, hey, the data is there, generated from the report, themes, quick wins, risks, whatever else you find relevant. I'm giving it, so you can see I've given it some constraints, but I'm also giving it some wiggle room. I'm giving ChatGPT some wiggle room to say, hey, maybe there's some things I didn't think of, right? So let's do this. So you can see it's generating, it's analyzing, it's thinking. And speaking of that, so right now, actually, a couple of months ago, ChatGPT 5 came out, and it was groundbreaking in so many ways. But one of the things they've also done is it used to be that you had to figure out which model of the AI you wanted to use, but with ChatGPT 5, it can best guess based on your inquiries what you want, right, or what you need. But however, you can still make tweaks. So if you say, for example, you know what, I know that this is going to require certain tools, or need you to think hard on this, you can ask that. So you do have that flexibility. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right, perfect, perfect. Okay, awesome. So we're getting the general stuff saying, hey, average readiness. So again, this it read the CSV file and understood the general context of what was being asked here, right? So if you see in the prompt, I didn't provide any extra details of for it. Everything is in that CSV file, right? So From that, it says, okay, hey, average readiness participants scored a mean score, falling within the AI interested range. It's this is the distribution of the folks, strengths, weak points. Okay, cool. Quick wins, foundation area literacy, blah, some risk, confidence gap, automation, hesitation, overestimation of readiness. All right, cool, cool, cool. And hey, ethics is the anchor, so relevant observations. So this immediately is a good grounding to get my report started, right? And you can think about this for any sort of data set. If you're looking at, lots of either, programming data, survey details, you just want to start getting some quick trends, you can do that. You can also say, what, hey, this is some good stuff. Yeah, cool. Let's develop this out. Let's see. Let's develop this into a report. I want charts, executive summary, executive summary. What else do we typically see in reports here? Let's see here. Recommendations and anything else that would be relevant for my board of directors. There we go. Board of directors about our organization, uh, AI readiness. There we go. I just typed that in there. That kind of made sense. All right. See? Ooh. Remember what I just mentioned? I just mentioned, right? Thinking long enough for a better answer. So ChatGPT 5 now says, hey, you know what? I think I need to think a little longer in this. I need to process this data properly. I have the constraints. So it starts for a couple seconds. It's now analyzing. What is cool is if you click down here, you can kind of see what it's doing. So it's analyzing things in Python, which is a programming language. Most of the time you won't see it. It's hidden there, but good to know. You can also click, if you click top, right? Boom, it's giving you a top process. I need to build a report with some recommendations for the board using data set. I will compute domain scores, create charts using blah, blah, blah. Maybe convert it to a PDF for download. You need to analyze questionnaire columns, group them by keywords, AI automation ethics, calculate averages per domain. So you can see how it's taken my simple prompt and thought deeper. It's given it some more depth in that thinking process, and it's still working. So it's still going along, it's still kind of doing its thing. But again, so while it's doing that, it's gonna take a minute here. Let's open up the chat and have a quick look. Okay, got it. Perfect. So initially in the beginning here, I asked, for things that often you do or you handle that you might use AI for. So number one here from Alicia, she's saying, "No, client case notes." Perfect. So again, AI is really good. ChatGPT, Gemini, Gender AI is really good at summarizing details. So you could potentially input information and say, hey, summarize this, give me the five key points, or, what are my follow-ups? What am I missing? Should I proceed with a meeting, so on and so forth. So, but again, before you'll do all that, and here's the big stuff, we're going to talk about it very soon here, privacy matters, right? AI is cool, it's exciting, it's fun. However, data laws still apply, and also, community trust, right? So, we'll talk about ways of how to start that to use AI in a very ethical, responsible manner in the next slide coming soon here. But very good point. Using AI to summarize huge data sets, that'll be cool. Next, crafting social media posts. We did that, right? We did that. That's great. Emails, logs. Well, what do you know? We covered emails and logs already. Perfect. Organizing grants, fund tracking. This is cool. This requires a lot more things, but it is possible to use ChatGPT and other tools to help you research grants, help you start crafting details, to at least get the initial grant filling out done properly based on your data sets, matching what the grant guys are looking for. So it is possible. It just requires a bit more steps, but it's definitely possible. Create posts and social media posts. We did that. Monthly newsletters. Again, we did a news. We didn't do a full newsletter, but we did an email. So you can extrapolate from that process how to create emails, right? So emails, boom. Posts for events, boom, we cover that. Setting up a board meeting agenda. So it might be possible that we could use this data set actually to create a board meeting agenda, right? We'll say, hey, based on all these notes, make it and create an agenda for us to cover. And it could either be for the previous event stuff, or we can use the CSV file. Either way. So let's see here. Awesome data analysis stats related to client's access. So we kind of show, I show, and that's our demo right now, showing that, hey, you can use ChatGPT to do stats analysis on Excel files and so on and so forth. We have emails, letters to clients. We'll cover that. Creating procedures. That is a good one. So ChatGPT, as we can see, can be a wonderful co-pilot to help you along that process. So if you've been doing a job for a while or you've been in the industry for a while, you have a rough idea of what you need to put in your procedures, right? You have a, because you've been doing it a lot, some of this might be muscle memory, but it's still a good idea to say, hey, we're gonna do this here process. What do you think we might need? What procedures do we might need? If it's onboarding people or onboarding clients or getting them, set up when they're, in their tools and whatever, you can then use your experience and domain knowledge to guide the AI to create something that's more legible and digital and shareable for folks. Clean up emails, okay? Again, that is something Hey, a lot of so Outlook, Gmail, a lot of these big guys already use implementing AI in their inboxes already to allow you to summarize what's in your inbox and start helping you to kind of prioritize things. That's only going to get better. So don't worry about that. We talked briefly about fund tracking contracts and agreement. Ooh, okay. So again, this is tracking contracts and agreements. So that might be for a bit of a that might be under AI agents, but we'll that's a bit more advanced, but it is possible. Process maps, again, we'll kind of show that. Program descriptions, policy writing. AI can be massive in helping you create documentation for policy writing. And again, we'll kind of hint at that soon enough here. Okay, find ways to reach everyone in various demographics. We covered that. Perfect, perfect. Logos, reports, email, letter, correspondence. That is great. So we can create logos, do letters of funding. So we didn't create a logo, but created a poster. So close enough. Spreadsheets, funding contracts, email correspondence, boom. So we got a lot of great examples from there. So thank you everyone for that. I'm gonna go back in here. So we asked this to kind of create a port, right? So you can see, okay, it's created some domain averages, it's created accounts, boom, boom, boom. I like this. What's inside? So, oh, okay, it's actually created a proper board report and everything. So it's talks about charts, distribution, whatever. Let me click into one of these and see if I can open that up for you guys. Okay, boom. Look at that. 8 pages created while we were waiting. So it's talking about executive summary. It created a graph chart. Okay, that's cool. It's created average scores. Okay. Some of these charts are box plots. This is nice. I do like this. Again, these are things you could have done, but this helps you kind of start things out. All right, recommendation 90-day plan, appoint blah, 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 do this, do that, track outcomes, and key risk mitigation. So, again, these weren't a lot of words, it's mostly graphs, but these are graphs you can start using. You can start saying, okay, you know what? I want to mess around with this. This is a good idea. This is something I can chew on, I can work on. Perfect. So, look at that. Even give us a PDF we can work with. So, you can probably upload this to like Canva and like experiment with it. But cool, cool, cool. So, that was just again a taste of what ChatGPTs can do. I wish, hey, I could spend an hour on each of those demos. Honestly, I could spend an hour on each of those, and I do have other webinars that I privately do coming up soon enough. So stick around through this presentation. You might get a chance to we'll get a chance to talk about those. Okay, so we hinted at these already. AI governance, right? So, hey, we're talking about responsible AI use, and we've covered the practical side. Now, let's talk about the responsible side. AI governance policies are is really the processes, procedures, and people that can cover and deal with how to handle AI in your organization or your group or wherever it is. So, why does governance matters? All right, it protects people. AI is so efficient, so powerful and so useful. However, because it's so powerful and so useful and so efficient, we can, not we, folks, people typically can, let it run wild. And that's not something we want, right? It's not something we want. You want to not only protect your clients, your customers, your community, you also want to protect yourself, your staff members, your team. So it's very, very, very important that for when as you start using AI, you start putting some guardrails and policies in play. You don't want it to be too restrictive where no one's doing anything new, but you also don't want it to be so so loose that anything goes. There is a balance, and that's why it's important to sit down with your team all across the level, come together and say, okay, what do we want to do? We remember we talked about aligning our mission to make sure that you understand your organization's mission and say, okay, this is our mission, this is what we do. How can AI help us? Not saying, oh, AI is cool, and then we'll figure it out. But like, this is what we do. This is our day-to-day, our role, our strategy, our mission. How can AI help us? Start with that. And of course, AI has unique risks. So I mentioned it before that AI is probabilistic. Like generative AI is probabilistic. That means that each time you search something up, each new query, each new step, it is new. So it's not like an established step. It's not like I turn a light switch and the light comes on. It's like, oh, the light might come on, right? So with that understanding, it means that the IT security guys, they always have to worry about a whole bunch more things with AI than they do with typical software. Risk mitigation. So with deploying AI tools, like I said, it's so useful, it's so awesome, you can't avoid using it. In fact, there've been stats that have come out that said, hey, if companies don't deploy AI well, it is most likely that their own employees are using AI in a shadow behavior, right? In a secretive behavior, and that means that could open up a Pandora's box for any issues that they might deal with, right? So it is very, very so understanding that saying, okay, you can't avoid the AI use because it's just so efficient, so powerful. We spent about 20, 30 minutes doing the work that might have taken half a day without AI. You came up with emails, you came up with social media content, you translated that to a different language, right? You did that data set, we did a brief report. That would have taken at least half a day for a lot of folks to do, those tasks combined. But we did it in 20 to 30 minutes. So it's a very efficient tool. However, we still have to figure out ways to manage the risk because again, there's so many factors of, the wrong information could break trust, and we deal with public trust. We are, as a community, as community services, the impact, we see them with our members, with our clients face to face, right? So, you in that case, policy should focus on risk management policy should focus on reducing the risk associated with AI. If there is an outcome, a bad outcome, restoring it. So, what could a bad outcome look like? We think about something like hiring, right? So, on one side, if you're the person who's applying for a job, hey, you could use AI to modify your resume to match the job description. You know, perfectly logical to use it to do that. Just double check again that it doesn't say that you were the CEO of Amazon if you weren't CEO of Amazon. But if you are the CEO of Amazon, let's talk, huh? Anyways, so that's one side. But the other side of that is the HR department doing the hiring. They could use AI to scan the resumes that come in. And when I do that, bias can come in because if they train the data set based on their past successes, the AI start looking for the traits that were highlighted in the previous stuff. So if the traits were, let's say that, these are now English sounding names, well, you just gone against or you are now discriminating against new Canadians and new immigrants, so people with different sounding names. Or the names are just male sounding names, well, you're discriminating against women now. So it's very important that there is a step to allow that, hey, the AI's, push this person's causes harm. We as an organization, as a team, need to step up and be able to restore that. And failing that, it's very painful, but if you cannot match that, for whatever outcome, let's say that, hey, you use an AI to do a lottery system and it picked someone and it really wasn't, and it didn't end up being as random, well, you might have to compensate you for stuff. So let's say that, hey, the lottery ticket were for tickets to a hockey game or something, well, you might have to say, you know what? Since we discriminated, our system discriminated, we're on a hook for it, so we have to compensate. And this is something that's happened even to someone as big as Air Canada. So Air Canada deployed a chatbot system, and when a grieving husband used the chatbot system to ask about like discounts and allowances because he was trying to bring his wife home back to the country, they chat about today. You can just, you can buy the tickets, you can whatever, get her to the country, and then you can ask for a refund later. But Air Canada's official policy is you ask for you ask for special permission first before you do that. So when he did the steps that the chatbot talked about, well, and then he went to talk with corporate. They're like, no, that's not our policy, so we're not going to help you. He took them to court, and then the judge said, well, your chatbot said this, your customer followed this, therefore you have to compensate. So again, these when you start thinking of deploying AI, you also have to consider the risk. So where do you hint at these key governance considerations? So when you're deploying AI, when you're writing your policies, doing using AI use, right? Data privacy and security. Like I said, privacy laws are still in effect with AI. They're not going anywhere. Um, and when you're using AI, so you have to make sure that the systems respect the laws in place, as well as they respect your members' trust, right? So there's that. Then we think about bias and equity. I think this is really the big one where a lot of folks where if you're using AI to make any decisions that or to help simulate any decisions, you have to make sure that it's as much as possible not biased. And sometimes that can be implicit or explicit. Sometimes you might be aware of it, sometimes you might not be aware of it. So it's again, because ChatGPT is really, I'm not ChatGPT, sorry, generative AI is really good at finding patterns. AI is really good at finding patterns. So sometimes even patterns we don't think are there, it could spot, hang on to those, and then just create all sorts of issues. There's that. And of course, transparency in AI usage. AI is now ubiquitous all across, lots of domains and softwares and products. Everyone is putting AI into whatever they can do. So it just at this point, it makes more sense to if you start deploying AI use, be aware of it. Mention that. Now, hey, there are different levels. If you're using autocorrect, you might not really need to mention that. Still gotta double check your email though. But like if you're using AIs to, potentially sort people for a job, or whatever, you gotta probably mention that. Say, hey, we do have an automated system to filter out, applications because we get 10,000 applications and there's only like 10 HR folks, right? So it's just not realistic to do that. But again, if you're using AI for things like note taking, I think someone mentioned client case, so you can use AI for note taking, summarizing, mentioning that to your clients, saying, hey, we do use AI to do a recording and then we'll do a summary afterwards. Mention that to your clients so that way they're aware of that. Again, just it's a trust thing. Sometimes it's related to laws in certain areas, but the transparency part makes sense. And also understanding what you're deploying, what you're using, also helps people to better embrace it as well. So, okay, you know what? Hey, this is useful. I'm going to embrace that. Thank you for having this conversation with me. Um, we mentioned before again for in risk management for restoring and compensating, you want to make sure that there is an alternative way for people to be able to make amends and so on and so forth. So that's called human in slash on the loop approaches. So it just means that hey, whenever there's a decision that involves people's lives, well-beings, whatever with AI, uh, do make sure that there's human in the loop. So it could be as simple as hey, if you're gonna create a social media post, don't just automate the process of like, the AI comes up with content and then post it. Someone needs to be in there to say, okay, what's going on? Like the final look see for the AI, and the AI is going really good, but I know someone has to be able to delete the post if it goes bad, right? So that's just that very basics concepts. Yeah, that was a lot of content, but I think we're still going good for time. Still got a few more minutes, so let's power through. All right, the AI ready community services professional. So as you probably said, hey, AI literacy is transformative leadership advantage. So that means that as you begin to adopt, utilize AI, you will find that a lot of things you get to do are transformed. It's not just faster or better. It allows us to do more, to connect better with our folks. Hey, when you save time, you're able to do either bigger, longer tasks you didn't initially think you could cover your day-to-day roles, or even just dealing with people more, being more willing and accepting to say, you know what, I have. And now I have 2, 3, 4 extra hours in a day. I can use that to do more client time, or I can see more clients, or I can hang out more with community members. I can plan more events, so on and so forth. So that's kind of number one. Number two is, hey, your job isn't being replaced, it's being reshaped. To really sell this point in, when I've asked folks in person in the room to say, hey, what's the one thing, like what part of the jobs do you like? Majority of the times, people in our industry, they say, we love dealing with people. We love handling people. We love being there for people. We love people. We dislike admin work, the paperwork, the tracking things down, all that fun stuff. We dislike it because it takes away from people time. Well, good news is with AI, as you're probably seeing, it can help to handle a lot of the admin work so that you have more time to be with people. So your job isn't being replaced, it's being reshaped. And if there are any parents in the room, I always I make a joke about this. I say that, would you trust a robot to babysit your child? And the answer, as long as that answer stays no, our jobs are safe. And even if the answer does become yes at some point, I have to remind folks that while humans would delegate, like a lot of things to convenience. They say, you know what, I can save time, I can whatever. The one thing they won't delegate is having fun, right? Having fun is a huge thing, it's a person thing. You don't delegate having fun. You don't say, you know what, I'm gonna watch someone else have fun and then, no, and then that's enough for me. It's like, no, no, you want to be part of the process. It's if it's hiking in the woods, whatever, so whatever it is, you want to connect with people. So our jobs aren't being replaced, it's just being reshaped. Finally, hey, we Civically AI, we help professionals apply AI without losing human touch, and that's kind of what we pride ourselves here at the group. So just to make sure that, hey, folks are well taken care of as a deploy AI. To remember that what we do is community first, and therefore as we deploy AI, we have to remember that we're doing it for our members, for our clients, for ourselves, for people, not just, efficiency or whatever. We're doing it to help save time, reduce burnouts, be better professionals, and not just to say, you know what, we're gonna now delegate all the work and then go to bed. All right, let's see here. Oh, perfect. So, hey, if you've enjoyed so far the content, just know that like I said, there is so much more I could cover. But unfortunately, just with timing, I don't have time. So if you wanted to deep dive into anything else specifically, do check out this other webinars that I'll be hosting over the next coming week. If you use the code FCSS70, you will get 70% off. This expires by Saturday. You can check out civicplay.ai/webinars for all those details. And again, this will be like in the presentation notes that get sent out later. So again, that's FCSS70 for 70% off. Expires Saturday. Over the next week, I'm covering prompting, marketing, more marketing stuff with AI, and then creative recreation programming. So we're gonna talk more about data, again, more data analysis examples, so on and so forth. All right, awesome, awesome. Okay, that kind of brings me towards the end here because I want to still create time for questions. So as we round up here, I want to say, hey, thank you for lasting through this journey, guys. We did it, amazing. So recap, hey, AI saves time, it simplifies tasks, it enhances creativity. Um, uh, if you if you're starting a journey or not quite sure, I do have a book. Now it is called AI for Recreation Professionals. I know a bunch of us here. Oh, I can't really show it. I'm like, there we go, perfect. AI for Recreation Professionals. So a bunch of us are community services, more focused on that. But my niche is Rex and Parks. So I called it AI for Recreation Professionals. However, it does again. You can apply a lot of the learnings to your day to day. You'll find there are way more exercises in the book, and it's a short book. You can read it within a day. It's on Amazon, so just give that a scan if you'd like. Also, hey, there is a survey that I would love for you guys to fill. Just helps me to again get the feedback from you guys to keep improving these webinars and offerings. If you complete it, there is 79 free prompts tailored to community service professionals, so you can just scan the QR code for that. And if you do have questions, please, please, please stick around for this. But if we don't get to your questions, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. You can search up Toby. That's Toby. And then Wambogor, but Toby and usually come up. Or if you just search up Civic Play AI, I will come up as well. Or you can email me, Toby at civicplay.ai. So with that said, that's kind of it for me right now. I'm opening up for questions unless Melissa or any of the FCSSA folks have anything to say.
No, I think this is a great time for questions. Thanks, Toby. That was really a lot of great information.
I think we have. I see Laurie. How do I?
Hi, thanks. So I am wondering, we use Microsoft Suite, Adobe, Canva, sort of our basic programs we use. We also send out paper surveys to seniors. Is there a way we can scan them in, have them read and put into a spreadsheet? That's kind of a time suck when you have to like type them all your responses in.
That is an awesome question. So if I'm understanding the question properly, it's you have, you collect survey results by paper from for seniors. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
And you want to find a way to kind of speed that process up, either by scanning the results. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, or we'll do like a survey monkey, but we'll also have a paper version, but then we want it all to be on one spreadsheet when we're done. And we'd love to
Okay.
save the time of typing the paper stuff in.
So the good news is with software like ChatGPT and even I think Copilot, remember we talked about NLP, natural language processing. So part of that is computer vision. So AI has gotten really, really good at being able to extract text from pictures, right? So even if it's handwriting on a survey form, it's a matter of pointing the picture or pointing your phone, taking a picture, and it can usually do a very good job of extracting that data. So again, if the survey doesn't have any personal details, I would say you can, if you have a ChatGPT account that you're paying for, you've modified the privacy settings to make sure it's not selling it back to the AI for training. You could probably just say, hey, you take a bunch of pictures, say, hey, could you extract all these into a spreadsheet? From there, should that be easier enough to copy and paste? So that's step one. Step two is if you, and sorry, an alternative will be if you're already using SurveyMonkey, it might be worthwhile to invest in just trying to digitize that entire process as well. One of the things we found, so my day job, again, I'm a Parks and Recs professional, so community relations manager at a community center. And one of the things we ended up doing was we digitized our entire form process because we found that, hey, it is quite the pain between reading people's handwriting or even getting things back. It is quite the pain to process a lot of the paper stuff. So we've digitized the whole process. We use JotForm for that. I do have a JotForm. I can talk JotForm later. So if you contact me by email, I can talk you the process setting up JotForm. It's this free setup and then it's slightly paid, depends on what you need. But if you that might be another thing, just saying, hey, could we just digitize this whole process? Because it then saves you so much time when it can all go into one source from the very beginning versus, like you said, you have to like scan it or, well, take a picture, ask ChatGPT to translate it, and then so on and so forth, right?
Yeah. And it's more about our users when you have 100 seniors in a room that don't want to do it on their phones.
There is
Yeah.
also that. That is
Yeah.
also true. So yeah,
But
but
you
yeah,
like
but
jot form?
yeah, jot form. Like I said, I'll be happy to have that conversation with you afterwards. Just shoot me an email and I can talk you through, at least getting you set up and get started on looking
Right.
at that as an organization.
Right, because I don't really love SurveyMonkey anymore. So that was the second half of my question is other good survey
I will sing jot
programs.
form to the moon and back. Like I said, we need to chat. So please, please do shoot me an
Thank
email.
you.
I would love to hear from you so we can get started talking about that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Is there any more questions or are they in the chat? Okay, see here. Um, Okay. Oh, is let's see here. Anyone else have any questions? I just see thank you notes, which is great from there. Any other questions? Oh, Stacy, yes.
I just had a question around the data collection piece, and if ChatGPT is the best tool for that. So, um, it when you put in your CSV file, what did pop out? It was some graphs and things like that, but I'm just picturing if it was qualitative data instead of quantitative. Like, is it does ChatGPT actually is it able to analyze trends in qualitative data, or is there a better tool to use than ChatGPT to do that?
I would say that okay, one that's excellent question. Is ChatGPT better for qualitative data or quantitative? I would say it's good at both. And the reason why, so I use, hey, I use mostly the numbers on that one, but I do have another data set where it's more like people are describing. Again, when you fill out the survey, actually, this is a little bit behind the scenes of my process. So when people fill out the survey, people say, oh, hey, excellent, good, whatever. I take that and I say, ChatGPT, tell me what tell me my rating based on this, and it understands. It can put numbers based on those stats to do that to actually be able to give me a good summary of saying, hey, most participants are rating excellent, and so therefore it's really good as well understanding the qualitative, not just quantitative. Additionally, because it is now it uses natural language processing, it's able to understand semantics and context and understand, if someone's saying, oh, this is a bad thing or a good thing. And that's one of the best tools for it will be either ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever. A lot of these tools, they're language first. They're terrible at math, but they're language first, so they can understand in a very good level, very deep level, emotions behind languages, behind words, and how they're arranged. So I would say, yeah, it's great. You can use ChatGPT for that as well. So if you have a survey, open-ended surveys where people go into great details and stuff, you could probably use ChatGPT to extract valuable, useful details on that one.
And details being, is it able to pick up trends in what people are talking about as well, like to identify like these are the trends that are happening throughout the survey, or
Yes,
not
yes,
quite?
yes. I've
Okay.
seen that. I've seen that. I've used that. Even if
Yeah.
we go back to that report where it said, "Hey, like it's mostly numbers, but it was still able to put trends because one of the columns were like the final scores and what that means and all that." So it was able to say, "Okay, hey, the fact that most people are good in this score is probably this," and it even gave a little like, "Okay, but also there might be so and so issues, so keep
Okay.
an eye on those." So it is fairly good at doing that. So again, ChatGPT, Gemini. A lot of these other tools are very good at doing that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Not a problem, Stacy. Hello, Crystal.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good, good. So, what's the question?
Just wanted to know if you could speak just a little bit more about security. Like how secure is it for like especially for ChatGPT? That's what I utilize at work, and I am very careful about any personal information, not to put anything in there, so to try to keep it secure. But because it does have that memory component, if something does get submitted into ChatGPT, how secure is that?
That's a great question. So, with security, it's such a broad topic because there's so many aspects. So, for example, people talk about the idea of uh, prompt injecting, which if you've never heard that term before, it basically means that let's say that you have a website, right? You got a website and it uses a chatbot, and the chatbot is powered by ChatGPT. So when people train the chatbots to answer company questions, they use it and it's powered by ChatGPT. So a hacker could say, "Hey, I want to, since I know you're powered by ChatGPT, I'm going to try and find ways to jailbreak you to get to you to output things that you're not trained on." And so that's again one of those components where it's not something you would usually think of, but because again, a lot of hackers exist for that reason. There's that. Now, what you're talking about is saying, hey, I input a lot of data into ChatGPT. How secure is it? ChatGPT is the OpenAI, sorry, the company behind ChatGPT. They are rated to be used by the U.S. governments and world governments and enterprises and big organizations. So they do have the hardware and the practices and the standards to match security stuff. But again, depends on what you're using. If you're using a free plan, maybe you're not as secure because again, they're like, well, it's a free plan. But if you're using a paid plan, you're a paying customer, you have more of a say, you have more voice. Therefore, it's usually they have better security settings in the back end. And the more you pay, they even tell you this on the pricing list. The more you pay, the more secure you can get. And it's the same with a lot of software because security if you think about security as a policy, it's deterrence. You're trying to deter people from even attempting. So the harder it is, the better. But if someone is determined and they're patient enough, they will get in. So you're trying to deter them from getting in, saying this is a hard topic, it's a hard subject, it's a big puzzle. Whatever it is. So that's just the game that's being played. So yes, ChatGPT is fairly secure. However, if you're using a free plan, less secure. If you're using a paid plan, slightly more secure. It's not 100% secure, but again, these are some of the risks. So if you're and this is where a bit of the privacy question. If you are doing the good job of scrubbing personal data, anonymizing strands about you, cool. Even with memory, you mentioned memory, you can go and edit the memory that it keeps of you, as well. So you can also do this while you can delete specific memory components. The only thing is when you use ChatGPT, you're using it through a window, but the brains is a whole service somewhere else. So it has to go through that server, get to that server, and anything goes to that server, it's hard for even the researchers to go and scrub that. So there is that always going to be that minor risk. What companies, governments, and whatever these big guys pay for is saying, hey, you have a cool brain, we want that in our server, not the central one, our server. Therefore, they're in full control. So, but obviously, hey, that's those are some big bucks. If anyone knows Bezos, reach out to me so we can be friends. But I think for the most of us, we just have to probably settle for saying, okay, we'll pay for the plus plan or the teams plan, and that extra layer of security might be what we need to because again they hit the standard, but that might be what we need to actually do our jobs and whatever task we need to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. And again, hey, if you have any more questions, definitely feel free to email or connect on LinkedIn. I would love to keep listening. But yeah, hey, we are still ongoing here. I think we're still gonna like 5 minutes or something. If anyone else still has questions or comments or anything. Check the chat, see if I missed anything. A couple of thank you notes. Awesome. And I think we answered most of the questions. Dealt with a lot of those. Uh, I felt like, oh yeah, setting up board agenda. You know what? I'll just spend a quick minute here on the board agenda meeting here. So we'll go back to our samples we created. So you know what? I'll say, okay, let's turn this in. Oops. All right. My board of directors wanted to do a meeting about the upcoming event. Help me plan the agenda. Help me plan the agenda. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so again, just showing that you can turn anything into, like I said, the board of directors agenda. As long as you understand its context, you can do that. It's giving you like a general basics here, right? Hey, board of directors meeting agenda, welcome, event overview, roles and responsibilities, logistics, resources, community, risk and contingency planning, next steps, alignment, so on and so forth. So again, it's already showing that you can do that. And I think we also had one more example I wanted to talk about, which was let's see, creating procedures. All right, I like that. So okay. What procedures do we need? Actually, you know what? Let's say create an emergencies procedures manual for the event taking place outdoors. Taking place outdoors. How about that? I misspelled emergencies, but that's part of the fun. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay. Okay, perfect. So someone mentioned about, hey, using this to create policy manuals and whatever. So we've not only created a quick like meeting agenda that kind of covers quick basics. Again, you're gonna read through it, you're gonna edit it, make it better, but ultimately, that's good. And now we've created a quick emergency procedures manual, purpose, key points, communication tools, emergencies, lost child, severe weather, environment harms, fire, emergency supplies, post whatever. So again, these things will help you along with the process, and you can go deeper. So I think I don't see any more hands. I don't see any more questions. I even gave you guys bonus demos. Yay! I think I'm gonna hand over back to the FCSS Melissa folk. There we go. Perfect.
Excellent. Thank you, Toby. That was really, really informative. I know I learned a lot of things I'm going to try out now and play around a little bit more, especially with Canva. So thank you. Thank you everyone for attending. And like we mentioned, we will send out the slides, information, and the recording once we have it. So have a wonderful day, everyone. And thanks again, Toby.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye.